What if the same financial tools sometimes used to protect power could be reworked to challenge it? Litigation finance is already an estimated $18 to $20 billion industry. It's an investment tool that lets third parties, usually hedge funds or wealthy investors, bankroll lawsuits in exchange for a cut if the case wins, sometimes at the expense of public good. But what if we flipped the model? That's where WIN comes in. Using litigation finance, WIN will tap into an investment sector that is forecasted to grow to $67 billion in the next 15 years and use it for good. How? By using the collective power of people to fund lawsuits that put people above corporate greed and whose outcomes rebalance power rather than reinforce it. Which means if you're outraged, you can put your money towards real action right now.
That's why the WIN mission is simple but defiant. Make harm expensive. And how we do that is by scaling accountability the way GoFundMe scaled giving, to turn that shared feeling of helplessness into real action. Everyday people, parents, workers, neighbors, all pooling their power to take on billion-dollar industries. A $25 contribution becomes part of a $25 million legal action. That's how ordinary families fund extraordinary justice. I've been fortunate enough to succeed, and when you reach a point, the only real choice you have is to figure out how to give back.
As a lawyer in an in-house position, you can only do so much. I can voice my opinion on what I think is right or what I think is wrong, but it ultimately becomes a business decision. Decisions that, at the core of who I am, I could not stand behind. At the same time, I had met Roland, and we would catch ourselves talking about how do we change broken systems. It takes consumers, it takes shareholders, it takes plaintiffs, lawyers, ordinary citizens to say, hey, I'm fed up, this isn't right, and we're gonna sue you. And that's when people would start to change their mind.
There's a massive opportunity here to democratize litigation funding. Can we raise billions of dollars to use the court systems as a lever and force corporations to rethink the way that they're doing business?
If you inject money and capital at the right point in time into the right people with the right resources, you can win.
When enough people invest in accountability, we don't just win cases, we change what's possible.
I don't have to say anything. That said more than I could say in my 2 minutes, so I gave it to the video. But thank you guys. What you just saw was only a glimpse of what we're building at WIN. WIN started as a shared vision between a philanthropic entrepreneur and a reformed corporate lawyer, with a collective conscience to overhaul a broken system and start a movement. And as of now, just last week, we've entered the scene with a simple yet bold idea. 2 entities, 1 mission, to make harm expensive. At WIN, we leverage capital, media, and the law to turn outrage into outcomes. WIN Ventures are for-profit, and WIN Justice are nonprofit, intentionally operate at the intersection of environmental and human health, holding those to account that degrade the health of people and planet in pursuit of profit. We build portfolios that match your values by addressing everyday concerns: what you drink, what you breathe, what you eat, what you discard. By way of example, we helped fund a lawsuit against AT&T, who abandoned lead cables in Lake Tahoe, amongst other things, a drinking water source right here in California, which had the potential to leach toxic lead for decades. As a result of this case, AT&T removed 107,000 pounds of lead, a cleanup that wouldn't have happened without this investment. It became our proof of concept that strategic litigation can create both purpose and profit. And so we asked ourselves, how can we scale this? Enter WIN Ventures, our for-profit arm, a litigation finance platform, but not in the traditional sense. Traditional litigation finance is purely transactional and has even been called predatory at times, often reserved for the wealthy who seek profit from any case, regardless of purpose or impact. But we're flipping the script. We're transforming an exclusive model into one that's inclusive and impactful. That's why we're democratizing litigation finance and opening it up for everyone, whether you can invest $100 or $100,000. We see litigation funding not as a luxury or a loophole, but as a lever and a lifeline. So here's how it works. WIN Ventures raises capital from the public through crowdfunding, welcoming both accredited and non-accredited investors. That's just a fancy way of saying traditional investors and everyday citizens. We then deploy that capital into mission-aligned lawsuits with the potential to deliver both profit and impact. When these cases win or settle, each of our investors receives competitive returns. And here's the best part. A portion of When Ventures profits are funneled into our sister nonprofit, When Justice. When Justice, our 501c3 arm, works differently yet synergistically. Our nonprofit amplifies critical work already underway by other organizations. We help raise funds for nonprofits, impact law firms, and more in need of money to hold bad actors accountable. We channel these funds into research, scientific studies, public awareness, pre-litigation, and litigation needs. Really anything that'll help to level the playing field and get cases from desk to courtroom. Here's the best part. When's power really comes from its connection and force between our two entities. Together, When Justice and When Ventures form a perpetual impact cycle, where capital fuels litigation, litigation delivers profits, those profits empower exposure and awareness, and that awareness is going to surface more cases, more pressure, and more momentum. So the more we win, the more we can fund, and the more we fund, the more we can win. And in order to win, we must work together to create compounded impact. This collaboration can and must exist at many levels, between nonprofits and for-profits, between public and private sectors, and between consumers and corporations, and beyond. When isn't just a name, it's a challenge, a call for collective action. When will people and planet matter as much as profit? When will investors demand return and responsibility? When will we realize we are all connected and work together? For the sake of our health and home, the answer has to be when is now. Thank you.